Hey, I'm Jim Sheehan, and I am very proud to say that I am an architect. And as an architect, I think one of the most important things that I took with me from graduate school is the importance of the sketch. You know, beyond the technical information that you need to do your job every day, the sketch is king. The sketch is the thing that gets jobs done. The sketch is the catalyst for essentially every job that gets done. You know, the whole notion that an effectively executed, very simple gesture put to paper can just take a design team and lead them in a very consistent, specific direction, to me is amazing. And there's not a day that goes by that I'm not trying to explain to somebody, what I want to have happen, and for lack of being able to do it verbally, I just rip a piece of trace off a roll of paper, off a roll, and say, what about this? You think this is the way? I could be talking to an engineer, I could be talking to another architect, I could be talking to anybody, and I can communicate an idea in a very, very simple manner. And for lack of being a professional actor, or even an amateur actor for that matter, or a professional television presenter, I think the best thing for me to do is pretty much take the skills that I've developed as an architect and try to give you a sketch of myself in the context of a really exciting architectural experience that I had about 4 years ago when I first went to Rome. And the whole thing for me pretty much started the second that I stepped out of the Colosseum metro station onto the Via dei Fori Imperiale. And I'm standing there and I'm assaulted visually with the Colosseum. I mean, this sort of pockmarked behemoth, just standing there. I'd seen it a million times before, and I thought I was prepared for it, but I wasn't. I mean, I welled up. For me, it was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had. And as I'm standing there trying to, just in my mind's eye, trying to figure out, what could this thing have possibly looked like, clad in travertine with, with that radial awning completely deployed and like fluttering in the breeze. God, I can't imagine what this would have looked like, what the sights and sounds would have been. And as I'm standing there thinking this, I realized, wait a second. Then other things start to kick in. And I'm like, God, I know this city. I've never been here, but I know it. I mean, I read Design of Cities by Edmund Bacon, who happens to be Kevin Bacon's father, interestingly enough, another significant person that he's connected to. But I've read this, and I know the axial nature of the city, and I know how the city was put together. And I realize that if I start to turn my gaze, just crank my gaze counterclockwise, I will essentially run my eyes over a smorgasbord, of imperial, Republican, and Renaissance Roman design that is essentially mind-blowing. So I actually did it. I start turning around, I'm standing there, and it was December, so there weren't a lot of people there. It was really cool. So I start turning, and I realize that as I'm turning, I can name everything. The Domus Aurea is the first, the site of the Domus Aurea is the first thing that my eyes pass over. And then the Markets of Trajan are off in the distance, and the Markets of Trajan are indescribably important in the history of design. And then further, I continue, and then, the Campidoglio, which is an incredibly important piece of Renaissance design. And then, the Forum of Augustus, which it would be redundant for me to even comment on it, it's so important. And then, Basilica of Maxentius, which is just a personal favorite of mine. And then, bam, back to the Colosseum, and I'm just thinking to myself, God, this to me is just staggering. It's absolutely unbelievable. And then, as I'm thinking that, I'm like, I look and I see the Claudian Aqueduct, sort of sheepishly surrounding the whole thing in the distance, and I'm thinking to myself, I mean, this is just, to me, absolutely amazing. And the fact that 3 of the 9 Roman aqueducts are still in operation, to me, is just, that was just like the cherry on this bizarre Sunday of architectural, of architectural sites and important things that I took in a single, like maybe 30-second, 360-degree revolution that took place literally within 10 minutes of my setting foot into the city proper. It just blew my mind. And then, the next day, my wife and I decide, well, let's go to Vatican City. And when we travel, we walk all the time. So we walk over to Vatican City, and we're heading back, and I think we were walking on the Via del Corso Yeah, we were at I think we were coming back on the Via del Corso. Got turned around somehow, and we taking an indirect route back. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, God, it was so amazing to have seen the Sistine Chapel. I mean, I read Michelangelo on the Pope's ceiling. I appreciate the beauty of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, but I appreciate the work that went into it and the design that went into it and the innovations that had to happen in order for that just to take place, for that work of art just to have been produced. Innovations were taking place constantly every day, and that to me was mind-boggling. And then after being in the Sistine Chapel, we go to the Vatican apartments, and I'm walking through the Vatican apartments, and I turn around and I hear someone mention Raphael, and I turn around. As I'm turning around, just as they mention Raphael, I'm looking at the School of Athens. And again, if you know anything about Renaissance art, that's an icon. And between the School of Athens and the expulsion of Heliodorus, which is another fresco that Raphael did in the Vatican apartments. Some people think the Vatican apartments are more important than the Sistine Chapel. I personally don't, but I think they're just trying to be contrarians. But they're incredibly important, and to see those the day after I saw the Colosseum and the day after I saw all these other things just blew my mind. So I'm walking back down the Via del Corso, and we got turned around somehow, and we were on a side street, and I'm walking down the side street, and I start to see, I guess it was on my my right hand side, out of the corner of my eye, I start to see this giant concrete drum, and I'm like, oh my God, I mean, I know what this is. I mean, this is the Pantheon. I basically just found the Pantheon by mistake. And again, I've written 3 or 4 papers during graduate school on the Pantheon. I know how this thing goes together. I know the religious significance of it. I know that it's one of the oldest religious structures known to man. It's survived every sort of religious regime that would ever existed in Rome. And the whole idea of the circle inside the square, the idea of man inside the Roman Empire, inside the heavens, was all over the place. And I walk in and I'm seeing all this stuff, and again, it was just a situation where it absolutely blew my mind. And then again, my wife and I are continuing walking through the city, and we found the Circus Maximus by mistake. It's just these kinds of things that travel, architecture, urban design, it's the gateway to just unbelievably exciting experiences for people. And I think the notion or the idea behind hidden cities is a really good one. And I think that if you have a person like me guiding people through these experiences, someone who has the professional credentials, the educational credentials, and is genuinely capable of getting excited about these things. I mean, I well up when I go to museums. I think that I would be a perfect person to relay this information to people. I get excited, I can convey that excitement, and I tell you right now, all you have to do is you can just wind me up and push me into the sewers of Paris and let me go. Tell me what you want me to do, and I will do it and enjoy every second of it. I hope that, again, this was just a sketch. I'm not dangling off of anything. It's hard to dangle off of things in Baltimore. They're kind of crazy about that. They tend to arrest people as soon as they see you dangling off something or doing something that they find to be unusual. So I think that my choice of doing it in the apartment was basically out of necessity, and I think that, quite frankly, if I can get you excited about something, and I hope I managed to convey some of my excitement to you guys, if I can get you excited about something like a trip to Rome from an 1,100 square foot apartment here in Baltimore, I think I can do a heck of a job if you give me a chance to work on the Hidden Cities team. I appreciate your time, and I hope to hear from you at some point in the future. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.